Interestingly enough, this young man who has graced us several times has a unique story to tell from his own point of witness. And I like his work very much. And I like the unencumbered truthfulness of his eye and ear. Sean Foley, grace us.
Thank you. The White House. I lived in the White House. I did. I took the columns out, laid them down on the front lawn on big sawhorses. The columns were old then. I took them apart, glued them back together again. I put them back in place. The columns look better after my work. I lived in the White House. Why not? It fit 2, maybe 4, maybe 6 of the house I grew up in. Completely inside, including the roofs. With rooms left over for spares. Full of a history, which I thought I lacked. Except at night, the White House stood mostly empty. Except for a woman trapped. Like a caged bird, singing. Needing help. I lived in the White House briefly. I did not belong there. I lay in the big bed, no Lincoln, no Jefferson, opening doors to an endless kitchen. I wandered in the empty rooms, fixing things. There were so many things to fix, I was generous with work. I lived in the White House. I explored to find there is no secret bunker. No situation room underneath. Only a wine cellar. And after a few glasses, no one looks all that elected. I was not president. Couldn't be. Though for a while, I had dual citizenship. Believe me, there is no president anywhere I knew how to find. Only a son. Always a son of some kind. So I had to leave another country. I ran off to India with the First Lady. She was very fit and even had a high horse that did yoga. Had a grand theory for everything. Was so angry so much of the time, yet had very good social skills. She liked complicated symphony, always to swoon, generous in mood. Carpenters and ladies, long past having babies, and I loved her. I didn't care that I didn't understand the language. I still so barely understand. Eventually some spells do wear off. All that dressage starts to become real work. I worried about passport control and lost track of all the cocktail parties and who owed an invitation to whom. I was never any good at keeping names straight. How quickly I got unwell and had to go to a hospital, where all the doctors had books for short sale, and there was the better food. Trying so hard to leave, I stood on some crowded steps, I guess hoping for pictures. I honestly don't have the 1,000 words it took from me. Met so formally with my own birth family, I couldn't go home again. No new tears would shed, no child inside, I no longer had a wife. So I went back to the White House and finished building a garden off the west porch. There was a fountain there of a boy clutching a porpoise. I worked hard giving him just the right catheter. I had cast myself out then as far as I knew how. I thought there would be more gardens. Living out of my truck and out of hay, I told the office, hey, a barn that doesn't get painted falls down. A damn dam fills up with much mud and becomes a puddle if the valves aren't exercised. Fences fall down and let the animals out. It's more than husbandry, you know. I was not nominated for another term. Out of good work and mad out of war and some son of a president, I took whatever it was I thought I learned, and in the famine of my own sinister brain, escaped to Europa. I worked in a museum there, in a laboratorio, washing under magnification the darkened candle smoke from Jesus' feet. I bought such intricate small tools and fine brushes and jars of precious pigments, signifying earth, none of which was bright white. Salt and water, aqua alta, rose frequently. In Venice, the winter skies grayed, my wallet soaked and dried. Often, much to my surprise, I found myself missing scaffolding and long hours. And with time, I learned how American I was. I missed most of all being so physically, gratefully tired from work. The White House drew me back simply by promising the grandest view atop a freshly stripped roof and rope thick enough to keep climbing. I had listened to everyone's speeches and knew enough to keep on fundraising. I was at home with the unelectable, unchosen and hungry. I more or less showed up anyways at the border. A reappearance, so to speak. A stepson offering a portfolio I couldn't open and didn't want to lose. Unbelievably, I stayed put. 20 years, one season at a time, each and every livelong day, I quit. I honestly don't know where the time went. Nothing simply vanishes. There were more buildings, some of them nearly beautiful. I fixed and painted all that was allowed. Each and every last piece will need paint again so soon. So I rode away on a bicycle bought with borrowed funds, in debt as always, and still myself, whatever that might mean. Still in need of a haircut and a shine, boots, no great shoes. Left the tuxedo, employed myself and others. Got arthritis so bad I had to stop signing my name to things. Then the last of the lead paint finally ran out. I don't know how the clothes still fit. It must have been hard work. Every hair on the body changes. Styles come and go. Milk paint chips under bridges, and all of that. I'm not sure what I expected. The columns are still there. The garden survived, though eventually others took care of it. Only in looking back do plants appear to grow slowly. How magically the trees become larger. The White House is still white, keeps getting paint, survives, has lots of help. They still eat the weak. Don't be weak. People talk, and then they talk about something else. Unoccupied buildings are more or less silent. None but dates are ever on tests. So quit or don't quit already. Inherit wind. Save your money. Write your own damn poem. Never go fuck yourself. Never wish that on anyone. Never wish. I was not husband, nor heir, nor owner, nor thief. I was the most privileged of worker among workers. There was a well for me at the very back of the White House that contains the most common substances of blood and of stunned silence, of drunkenness and of love, and the suffering in love, of my own thoughtless hands, and of the failed care of each other. I entered after so brief a surprise cry and fall to scrub the well's concrete, staying fresh with those first substances, and also to finally wash and then wrap with ritual care the casualties' familiar paintbrushes. George Odell, of whom I knew nothing but as a painter, now a body broken, ascendant via helicopter ambulance to that place at which we all arrive. Week 2 of a job of 20-odd painted years. Death can come at the beginning or the end of any story of wind. There are no columns behind the White House. Life gives us many versions of one body. Only on a page does one choose one's birth. In Wounded Clarity, my own grandfather, after his fall of stories from scaffolding to a New York City sidewalk, claimed to have opened his eyes and looking up at the gathered spectators said, "Get back to work, everyone." I inherited him, not you, or you, or you, or you. This work of shaming. My grandfather said, if you ever think you're being treated unfairly, do your job so well it shames them. Define fair. This one directive leaves room for little else. A lifetime can go by trying to shame people who are not listening, who barely know you exist, whom you yourself barely know exist, except in feelings of anger, impingement, hurt. This one wisdom from the broken man guides what? Over a lifetime. Extrapolate any bitter pride over decades. A lifetime of layoffs and downturns and having the one beer to have when having more than one. To all 7 children and a depression and war and the beginning of the Teamsters. What a quixotic thing to tell an 11-year-old. I missed the obvious information at 19, conveyed by the Pieta of his obviously broken body as I lifted him from his last hospital bed as the orderlies spread fresh white sheets. No one but those you love are buried on top of you. Thank you.
I told you Sean's got magic between his ears. And it's very moving.